Disclaimer: this story is dramatized, based on documented creative tensions during Once Upon a Time in the West production. While the harmonica reveal scene's importance is well documented, this specific confrontation is fictionalized. Spain, 1968. Monument Valley location. Sergio Leone stood behind the camera, frustrated. They would just filmed the harmonica reveal scene for the 15th time, 15 takes of Charles Bronson standing motionless, while a flashback explained his character's entire motivation. Leone thought it was too slow, too sentimental, too much emotion in a film built on operatic violence. He was seriously considering cutting the entire sequence. Then Charles Bronson, who'd barely said 10 words to Leone all week, walked up and said something that stopped the director cold. "Cut that scene and you cut the soul of this film." What followed was the only time anyone saw Charles Bronson fight for something artistic rather than practical, and what it produced was one of the most iconic moments in cinema history. This is the story of the scene that almost did not exist, and why Charles Bronson's quiet insistence saved a masterpiece. Once Upon a Time in the West was Sergio Leone's most ambitious project. After the success of his Dollars trilogy with Clint Eastwood, Leone had the budget and creative freedom to make the Western he would always envisioned. Epic in scope, operatic in style, exploring revenge, capitalism, and the death of the Old West. The script was co-written with Bernardo Bertolucci and Dario Argento, two future master directors. The cast included Henry Fonda playing against type as a villain, Jason Robards as a charismatic outlaw, Claudia Cardinale as a mysterious widow, and Charles Bronson as Harmonica, a man with no name and a mission no one understands until the final moments. Leone cast Bronson specifically because of his face. "That face tells 1,000 stories without saying a word," Leone told his cinematographer. Bronson had minimal dialogue in the script, maybe 20 lines total, but his presence, his silence, his eyes, Leone believed that would carry the character. Bronson accepted the role not for the money, though the European production paid well, but because Leone promised him something Hollywood never had, a character whose mystery was the point. The harmonica reveal scene was designed as the film's emotional climax. Throughout the movie, Harmonica plays a haunting tune on his harmonica, torments the villain Frank, and operates with an agenda no one understands. In the final confrontation, Harmonica forces Frank into a duel. As Frank dies, Harmonica places the harmonica in Frank's mouth. Frank's eyes widen in recognition. Cut to flashback. A younger Harmonica, maybe 12 years old, forced to stand on his brother's shoulders while a noose is around his brother's neck. A harmonica is shoved in young Harmonica's mouth. Frank, younger than 2, shoots the support, and Harmonica's brother hangs, using Harmonica's shoulders for support till he dies. Harmonica kept the harmonica, spent decades finding Frank. The entire film exists because a boy watched his brother die while being forced to play music. It is heartbreaking, operatic, deeply human, and Sergio Leone almost cut it. The problem was pacing. Once Upon a Time in the West runs nearly 3 hours. Leone built the film on long, silent sequences. The opening scene is 12 minutes of men waiting for a train with almost no dialogue. Leone's style required patience from audiences, but even Leone worried the harmonica reveal pushed too far. A 5-minute flashback near the film's end, explaining everything through visuals, rather than exposition, it risked losing audiences who wanted action. After filming the flashback sequence for 2 weeks, Leone watched the dailies and grew uncertain. The scene was technically perfect, emotionally devastating, but did it fit? He called a meeting with his core crew, cinematographer Tonino Deli Colli, composer Ennio Morricone, and the key actors. Leone laid out his concern. The flashback is beautiful, but it stops the momentum. I am thinking we cut it. Let harmonica remain a mystery. Sometimes what you do not explain is more powerful than what you do. Morricone disagreed. The music I wrote for that scene is the emotional heart of the score. Without it, harmonica is just another revenge story. Deli Colli was torn. Visually, it is our strongest sequence. But Sergio, you are the director. If you think it disrupts the flow, we trust your instinct. Then they turned to Charles Bronson, who had been sitting silently in the corner. Charles, what do you think? Bronson did not answer immediately. He stood up, walked to the window, looked out at Monument Valley. Then he turned back. Sergio, why did you cast me? Leone seemed surprised by the question. Because your face tells stories. Exactly. Because I do not need dialogue to communicate. Because silence speaks. That is what you said when you offered me this role. Do you still believe that? 4. Then you know that flashback is not just backstory. It is the moment silence becomes sound. The entire film, Harmonica, says nothing because he has swallowed his scream. That flashback shows us the scream. It shows us the moment his childhood ended and his mission began. Without it, I am just a tough guy with a harmonica. With it, I am a boy who watched his brother die while being forced to provide the soundtrack. That is not just motivation. That is trauma. That is art. Leone listened but remained uncertain. The American distributors are already nervous about the length. Bronson's expression hardened. I do not care about American distributors. I care about making something that matters. You brought me to Spain, gave me minimal dialogue, told me to communicate through presence. I did that. I trusted your vision. Now, I'm asking you to trust it too. They filmed the scene as scripted. Bronson's performance in the flashback was minimal. He played young harmonica purely through his eyes, but the horror of the moment translated. When Leone watched the final cut with the flashback included, he admitted Bronson was right. Without that scene, the film is good. With it, it is unforgettable. Once Upon a Time in the West, premiered in 1968, American critics and audiences did not know what to make of it. Too slow, too long, too arty, the film flopped in the US. But in Europe, it was immediately recognized as a masterpiece. And the harmonica reveal scene became the most discussed moment. Film scholars analyzed it. Directors studied it. It became a template for how to use flashback, not as exposition, but as emotional revelation. Charles Bronson rarely discussed the creative fight over the scene. But years later, in a 1985 interview, he said, Leone was a genius, but even geniuses doubt themselves. My job was not to direct the film. My job was to remind Leone why he wrote that scene in the first place, because it mattered, because it turned revenge into something human. The interviewer asked if Bronson felt vindicated when the scene became iconic. I did not need vindication. I needed the scene to exist. That is all.